Hello again, Dave Graybill, FishingMagician.com. Today, I'm at Bob Feil Boats and Motors, sitting here with Gary Feil, who is the geek when it comes to electronics. He's known far and wide for really being able to answer questions and figure out a solution. And one of the reasons I want to have Gary here is to demonstrate this Garmin unit. I've been using Garmin's for several years now, and I even have 2 units in my boat because I like to have one where I navigate, but also I spend most of my time in the back of the boat. So they've mounted a second unit back there that's slave to the other unit, so it's giving me the same picture and everything. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Garmin is its simplicity of navigation. It comes right out of the box with some overlays that are about all I really ask for out of a unit. But Gary, thanks so much for taking the time today to sit down with us. We've been trying to do this for a while.
It's been a while.
Yes, but next step here is I'm gonna turn this over to Gary, and you're gonna see the screen and how easy it is to navigate with this Garmin unit. And Gary can also share with what their customers most ask about and what seems to be what they want from a unit and how Garmin answers those questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the intro. Thank you very much. So as Dave mentioned, we've been using Garmin's now here for 3 or 4 seasons, actually probably more like 5 or 6 now that I think about it. And we have been installing them on Dave's boat for a couple as well. What we again like about them, as Dave mentioned, it is extremely easy and user-friendly. And one of the things I get the most commonly people ask me is it easy to use? I don't do computers, I don't do phones, I don't text, I don't do this. Well, the good news is right now the Garmin's do offer extremely easy to use features that everybody is finding very helpful out there on the water. So one of the biggest things, as Dave mentioned, is when you first turn this unit on, it comes up and it asks you a few simple questions. It asks you if you're a motorboat or a powerboat, if you'd like to set a depth alarm, things like that. There's only 5 or 6 of them. It's just a part of the setup, but once you do that, it's done. But the reason they're asking that is they just want to get some information from you because this unit offers a lot of advanced features that you can utilize if you wish. However, the best thing is you don't have to do it if you don't want to. The nice part is once you answer those questions once, you will never have to do it again unless you do a reset. And then you will literally pick the screen you want to see, and after that it defaults back to that. You pretty much turn it on and go fishing.
That's great, Gary. That's what I love to hear. And that is going to be something anyone that's shopping for electronics is going to want to hear. So the next step is I'm going to turn this over to Gary, and we're mostly going to be watching this screen so he can show you how easily you can move through different screens and options and different applications that are available through the Garmin Depth Sounder.
So here on display, we've got a Garmin 9-inch EcoMap Touchscreen unit. These units come ready to go in the box. They've got transducer, bracketry, everything you need ready to roll. One of the really neat things is once you've done the initial setup process, you get to come to a screen similar to this. It will allow you then to pick what image you actually want to see on the screen. And it has several options available to you. You have on charts, you have a navigation chart, a fishing chart, and a 3D chart. Our most common thing going to be used is the fishing chart just because it has the most of the contours and the information that anglers will find most useful. You also have options on the sonar tab. You'll have traditional chirp sonar. You'll also have clear view sonar and side view sonar. Clear view is Garmin's name for their down scan or down imaging. Side view, of course, being the same for their side imaging, where that's looking down and out to either side of you. This will also offer several other options in turning the old school flasher, and if you have any other type of transducers attached, such as a live view or Panoptics, you will view them via this menu. So if you didn't want just a full screen sonar, it also offers you combination screens. This is where you can combine more than one item to see on the screen. In fact, you can have up to 4 individual components displaying at any given time. To see your additional options, you just simply scroll across the bottom by using the touchscreen and pushing and holding. Not all options will be available on all units, but these should be a good chunk of what you will see. So here, as you can see, we've got one that says fishing and sonar, and that also shows us a picture of the down scan. So if we tap that, it takes us to this screen. This gives us our navigation, so we can see where we are going and any obstructions. This gives us traditional sonar with the pertinent information, our depth, water temperature, speed, voltage, and time, and as well as a structure option. This would be your down scan displaying. However, if you decided that this was not something you wish to see and wanted to see a full screen or another option, you would simply touch the home button and it takes you back to the last screen you were at. So let's pick another combo. Let's scroll along here and let's do fishing and traditional sonar. This is probably the most common screen that you will use out there on the water because it shows you, again, it shows you the map of where you want to be or go and any obstructions, and of course it gives you your bottom information. The nice part about these Garmins is when we talk about the map, it is preloaded in there. So what that means to you is that you don't have to buy any additional map card generally for most bodies of water. If you're an inland fisherman, everything is covered from Banks Lake, Roosevelt, potholes, even the Columbia River is in there. However, it's not all in there all the time with all the contours. So just be very aware that there are still some gaps in the maps. However, it's preloaded, so you don't have to add anything extra. It's ready to roll. One of the other really nice parts about the touchscreen is it is extremely easy to mark waypoints and to use in different menu functions. So on this screen, or any screen actually, if you are out there and it has a GPS signal, you can literally hit the button that says mark. Like this, it brings up this screen, which allows you to edit the bookmark, make the symbol change, or anything else you wish to do. Then it defaults back to your screen that you were at. You can do this from anywhere in the menu system as long as the mark is available. To see that waypoint that you just created, you will then zoom in via pinch zoom, via plus and minus here on the keyboard, or you can actually use a plus and minus, zoom in, zoom out on the key assist. It will be then, your bookmark will show up, and it's hard to see here, but it is right there. It gives you the number and the symbol that it is, so now you know that at that location you can go back to see it again. So once you have looked at your waypoint and marked it to change the symbol if you wish, you can go back to your screens here. One of the other neat features is, again, we can have up to 4 things displaying. And one of the other really neat features about this, one thing that my customers really like, is called a shortcut key. That's what these numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 represent on the side of the unit. It is a shortcut. So what that means, you push and hold number 1, 2, 3, or 4. It can be any of the numbers. So let's use 4. You'll push and hold until this comes up and it says page saved to shortcut key 4, and you'll hit OK. And so what that means is, that means from anywhere on this unit, from any screen, if I simply touch the number 4 button, like so, it takes me right back to that last screen that I had as my favorite. So now, no matter what happens in the unit, you can always get back to your main screens from anywhere. And that also brings me to one of the other really cool parts about Garmin. And this is probably one of the biggest things that I can say about Garmin. As Dave alluded to, I've worked with fish finders for many years, and sometimes navigating the menu system can be very difficult. Well, Garmin makes a product, or a little button in there, that actually makes life super simple. So let's say that you're out fishing and your buddy's sitting there and he's bored, so he's touching buttons. And let's say you get to a spot that you're not sure where they got to. So let's say somewhere deep inside of this unit. And you're like, what is this screen? I have absolutely no idea. This is not what we wanted. I need to go back because I don't want this. I don't want to mess things up. Well, Garmin accommodates us by including this button right here. And it literally says back with an arrow pointed backwards. So just like with our phones or the internet, if you touch this button back, it takes you back to the previous screen. So let's say you were your buddy wasn't playing, but you were trying to get into this menu. Oh, there it is right there. I can get in there and oh, there's what I wanted, not where we were at before. And then when you're done doing whatever you wish to do, simply touch the back button. And if you didn't want to go, you just keep touching it till it takes you back to your main screen and you cannot go back any further and you're right back to where you started. One other additional feature that is gaining a lot of popularity out there is called Panoptics or LiveScope. Those two names get used interchangeably quite a bit. However, they are generally a little bit different. LiveScope is going to be a live picture of what's going on either behind your boat, off the side, or down off the trolling motor, depending on how you mount it. These units, the Garmin EcoMap series, the 7, 9, 10, and 12-inch units are capable of supporting that. And what that also does is when you go to your screen, if you have that option enabled, you would go to your chart page or any page here and pick sonar. Again, you would slide across and then you would have your different options for Panoptics and Live View. So this would be a demo version of what it would be showing us off the front. So you can see it is showing in real time things moving around as we move across this body of water. This is not necessarily the best option that they have. Garmin does offer a better option called Panoptics, and it will give you a better option and picture. So you get to that by going to the home screen, sliding across and picking, here it is, LiveScope perspective or LiveScope mode. This is the advantage that most people like with this. It gives you the ability to see structure, such as a bus, in this particular case, with fish moving around in real time. This is gaining real popularity in the salmon fisheries as the guys are using it down in Vernita to watch their plugs and downriggers and things and watch the fish come in and look at their bait presentation and decide whether it's what they want. So it allows you to quickly know whether your bait is working and attracting fish or if it's something you might need to try a different option for. That's just one option this has. Bear in mind that it is a separate transducer and a separate box that is required, so there is a bit more than just connecting it and off you go. But that's one of the advantages you do have here at Bob Feiles is we have all the equipment in stock and I'm able to show you what you would need and what pieces you will get. And so I can make this, your purchase and transition into new stuff, electronics, pretty seamless. One of the other real quick things that I'm gonna touch on is one of the things that people often ask me about is, hey, I was fishing up in Lake Chelan and I was on traditional sonar, which would be like this, and it would be showing me the arches, which are your fish, the bottom tracking. And they say, well, Gary, my depth started flashing. I was trolling, especially up by Mitchell Creek area. My depth started flashing. Well, that is one of the areas in this neck of the woods that is a problem for fish finders. Doesn't happen all the time, and in fact, it may not happen to any of the modern ones. However, just be aware that there is something there that does throw the fish finders off. It is not usually a problem with your equipment, it is in the water. So the way that you can easily and quickly get the fish finder back from flashing the number symbols to actually reading correct depth is a couple ways. One is to simply troll out of the area, give the machine time to reset itself, and it will refine the bottom. But if the fish are biting right in there, which they usually are, you may not be able to just troll right around to get it to stop. So here is a little trick that you can use that was taught to me by the guy that I learned from, and I believe this trick will also work in other places. I've used it up on Lake Wenatchee and a couple other places. So the first thing that you will do is you'll want to go into the sonar menu system, which in this particular case is these three little buttons. And you're going to look for the button that says range. Generally, range should be in auto. What the range is doing is it's the graph that goes up and down the side of the unit. That is your range. You can adjust it, or you can let the computer in the side do it for you. If you get into an area that the depth starts flashing, simply go into the range, select a random number. It doesn't matter what number it is. It could be 100, it could be 5,000 for that matter. Once you do that, just select done. Give the machine a few seconds to recalibrate itself while it readjusts. If that does not fix the problem, go back in and change it back to auto by going back to the menu, going back to range, going back to auto, hitting done, and it should relaunch the algorithm in here that finds the depth, and it should allow you to recapture the bottom, thus clearing up the flashing depth issue. So we were talking amongst ourselves, and I was talking with Dave Grable, and one of the things that we find that people ask him, they ask me, we get a lot of our customers asking us, well, what's the difference in the charts that are preloaded in this? There's navigation chart and there is a fishing chart. Well, I'll show you the differences real quick so you can kind of get a good idea of what options might serve best for your purpose. So the nice part is, as normal, from any screen on the unit, go to the home page, and it brings up your options here. In this case, we wish to go to charts, and it gives us our options: nav chart, fishing chart, 3D chart. The 3D chart will just give you a 3D version, allow you to manipulate the image and move it up and down to the sides. Does not necessarily show a lot of information that's useful for most of our stuff. The fishing chart, on the other hand, is one that we will find ourselves using a lot, especially if you're fishing banks or potholes or some of the smaller lakes and reservoirs in our area. There's really is an advantage to be knowing where the humps and the holes are. One of the neat things, again, with the Garmin series of EcoMap units is it is preloaded with Navionics mapping software. There are two versions available. There's inland and there's coastal. In our case, we're going to look at the inland, but you could also get coastal if you were going to be utilizing this unit in a coastal area. So let's go out front of us here in the Wenatchee River, in the Columbia River. So you can see, here's a good example. I'll zoom in a little bit more, get it tight on the screen. So I know it probably is a little difficult to see here on the screen, but there's quite a few contour lines out there in the Columbia River. So what that means is you could say, okay, I want to stay in the 75-foot contour zone so that you could say the fish, you keep your downrigger at 60 feet. That then, of course, allows you to have consistency where you don't have to worry as much about your downrigger catching something or running into something if you know that that contour line continues to go. However, again, there are some gaps, as we discussed, and in the Wenatchee area, right above the Old Station Bridge, it kind of stops just before you get to Rocky Reach Dam. Actually, I'm mistaken. My mistake. This one is the updated version, has a little more. Once you get above it, there is also some more contour information. So you can see that it's very densely packed contours down to 1-foot contours in some cases. So that's really, again, useful if you're really trying to target things along the shorelines or look for the humps and or the holes for jigging for walleye, or if in a coastal area, for bottom fishing. Let me go back to the home page here and I'll show you the navigation chart. So the navigation chart allows you to do a little bit more of your routes and trail running. So if you make a route, say the potholes, you have a specific route through the dunes that you know will be safe in all water conditions, you could map that route out on the unit and you can save it as a route that will always be there. The nice part about the touchscreen is then you can go in and manipulate the route, change buoys or markers. So in this case, it's again hard to see, but there is a line already in there through Waypoints. Someone has made a route or a trail through this area. So that allows you to continually follow that and keep in a safe water. So that's the main difference with your navigation is it is for navigation. So when you're traveling, when you don't have a pole in the water. Your fishing chart is going to be more for when you are at your destination and you are ready to fish. So that's what the differences in the maps is. There are other maps that can be loaded on this, but the nice part about the preloaded is it generally covers everything that you would need in whichever body of water you happen to be fishing in. So now that we've kind of talked about all the highlights of this and you've been out fishing, had a good time, it's time to go home at the end of the day. You get back to the dock or home and you're ready to take the unit apart and down for storage and safekeeping. Well, Garmin offers one of the easiest ways to do this of all the fish finder brands. So the first thing that we want to make sure we do is touch the power key by tapping on it, and it brings up the page to turn off. You want to make sure you push the power button, and the unit will ask you if you want to turn off, and you say, yes, I do, and it will turn off the unit. Once the unit is powered down, simply put your hand behind the unit. There's a lever, push in, lift up, and the whole head unit comes out of the mount for safekeeping and storage. Very, very handy feature. You no longer have to reach behind in tight spaces to unplug the power cables, transducer cables, any other connections. And when you're done and ready to use the unit again, it simply drops right back in its cradle and can be ready to go again. And they do have some units you can turn the self power on. It will power up when it turns on when it hits power, so you can actually have it ready to go for your next use. Be careful, make sure you disable this feature if you're going to leave the unit in there for long-term storage because it can drain your battery. Otherwise, the Garmin EcoMap series is one of our top selling units. It is our most fan favorite and it wins hands down for ease of use. Thanks very much. We appreciate your time and considering us for your electronics needs, and you can ask me any questions you have. Feel free anytime. My name's Gary. You can always reach me at the front counter. We also offer full line of installation and accessories for everything, so if you need anything, please let me know. Also, if you do have hard to find items, Dave mentioned it earlier, sometimes we do have old stock that we're able to track things down, so at least give me a call and see, maybe I'd be able to help you out. And once again, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to us. Thank you.
Gary, thank you for taking the time to share some of your knowledge, and it's vast, on the electronics. And I think people can understand now why I really like these Garmin units.
It's probably been one of the best things that we ever did for Dave's boat, because the reason we like it is Dave hasn't had to ask me about fish finders at all. In fact, it's usually something else that if anything goes wrong, it's not the electronics anymore. And I think that is the biggest calling card. I have multiple customers that have told me they've gone to Garmin and the only reason they call me is to ask me how they can make their machine do more with a lot of the advanced features. And I often tell them, I'm like, I bet you never thought you'd be asking me about that. And they kind of sheepishly look at me and grin and go, yeah, you're right. I never thought I could do this. So Dave's definitely right. It is something that once you get it, it's so easy to use. My customers love it. And you won't be disappointed in the new modern electronics that's available out there to you.
You know, you can get online, and I've said this many times, you can find a better deal, you can find a discounted unit, but what are you going to do when something happens? You know, dial 1-800-UNSCREWED. You know, the advantage of getting the right unit by talking to Gary, by getting it professionally installed, you're not going to have the issues that other people do. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for a unit, talk to Gary down here and have the folks at Feil Boats and Motors do the installation. thanks again, Gary.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you, Dave.
I really appreciate it, and I know that my viewers will appreciate it as well.